You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Good Morning America. The Horror Ramblings Podcast. This is your host, as always, Les, joined by Steven, and it's early. It's always weird when we record earlier than we're supposed to, but how are you this morning, Steven?
Recovering. I was not having the best week. This was I don't know what hit me. It felt like I ran a marathon and something just drained my body of all energy, and I don't know. It wasn't really cold, it wasn't the flu, it wasn't COVID, it wasn't really allergies. I don't know what happened. So I was miserable most of this week.
I'm not going to say that I was miserable this week, but the weather here, I don't know how the weather was there, but our weather was like up and down, and it felt like fall later in the day, and then it felt like summer in the morning. It was really weird, and that kicked my butt, and I'm not saying that's what happened to you, but who knows? Maybe it's a similar thing as far as...
I know that we're supposed to have good weather. Well, I guess by the time everyone listens to this past week would have been a nicer week, more fall-like weather.
Yeah.
Last week was not that. It was, the usual heat, the occasional rain, that kind of crap.
Now... Random question, but do you ever have sinus issues at all? I know that's really random.
Well, when it comes to allergy problems, that's why I wasn't 100% sure that it was allergies that were causing this, because I could breathe.
Yeah.
I wasn't coughing, I wasn't stuffy, I didn't have anything. It was just my body gave out.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's like I was sore. I just didn't want to do anything but lay in bed. And then one day, that's what I did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay right here. Because I don't know what it is, but I just need a break. And luckily it helped, because I rested. I kind of did a little bit of self-care, I guess you would say, on trying to help my body recover. And next day I was feeling a lot better. So I guess that's just what I needed.
Well, I guess we all have our down days where we just kind of get to feeling like crap. I'm glad you're feeling a little better, though. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I see one of your Chucky posters in the background.
Yeah, and you also notice that one of my Halloween posters is missing. We're doing a little bit of a move around.
Okay.
Because I got the other collection of Chucky posters. I've still got to get a few more frames. I found a better frame, by the way, than the other ones that I got. So I think 1 week I'm just going to talk about the two frames, not go into great detail, but recommend, if you're looking for poster frames and whatnot, a brand to go with that you can find on Amazon, because they were cheaper and they didn't feel like they were going to break or tear up my posters. They actually slid back into place like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Which I was really happy about, because that was the concern I had with the other posters I put up, even the Halloween ones, is, I don't know, it's just the frames on the sides. You go to put them in, and it just felt like it was too tight.
Yeah.
And you were just going to squeeze and just start tearing your poster, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. These popped right in.
I'll be honest, the not so much poster, but the photo that you got me of Joe Bob Briggs, the signed autograph picture, the frame that I put it in made me really nervous when I put it in. And I don't know what it is. You would think that, I'm sure there's a company out there that designs some kind of just, you can slide it right in type frame. But I would love to talk about stuff like that on the show. I think that would be really interesting. And we bring up box sets and things, but maybe we should start doing reviews of them. If the audience wants to hear that. I do want to give a shout out. You might have his name off the top of your head, maybe. But we did have a new subscriber who commented on our previous episode about Dylan's New Nightmare.
I don't have his name right in front of me, but I can get it.
I feel like I could look it up, too. Sent me a picture of it. By the way, everybody listening, Steven's great at checking things and knowing when people message us and stuff like that. I am not so good at that all the time, I'll be honest.
Kevin Dustin.
There it is. Yeah, he messaged and
posted. It was a comment on our YouTube video.
I always say everything is messaging now. Like, I don't know why I'm such an old guy and like, yeah, it's not a comment, it's a message. But he did put up quite the nice comment about the podcast and everything. And it was nice to see everything he talked about, because anybody could just say, hey, the show was great, you talked about this, it was cool. But seeing everything he said was enough to show me that he actually listened to the entire episode, which was also cool, because everything that he talked about was in different sections of the show. So if he's listening to this episode, I'll give him a shout out and say thanks for subscribing. We hope you got the chance to go back and listen to some previous episodes and you enjoy what we put out into the future. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I say thanks for the engagement, because it's nice to have that kind of back and forth with our audience. You know, we get that a little bit on our Facebook page, but it's more about what we're posting up, whatever stories we've got over there. On occasion, we'll get some stuff in Discord where somebody's like, hey, I got a thought about this, or I got a thought about that. So when we get to hear from our listeners, it's nice.
I have to tell you something really funny, too, about the Facebook page. So my dad follows our Facebook page, and he forgot the name of the show. And anybody that doesn't know, my family lives in a duplex. It's really easy for all of us because my parents are a little older and we've got free babysitting. It's great. So we go down and we have dinner with them sometimes. So we were down having dinner with them, and Dad was on his phone. And I look over and he's on the Horror Ramblings page, and he's scrolling, and he's actually like reading stuff. And he's like, huh, it's kind of cool. And I'm like, what you doing, Dad? He's like, looking at this. And I was like, that's my podcast page, right? And it just like, you could see it on his face. It hit him. He was like, oh yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. He found the content really cool, and it wasn't just because it was a podcast that his kid's on. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I love the interactions, and I hope that people start giving us a little more, tell us what you want us to talk about. If there's a certain subject that you just have to hear our opinion on, because we'll give it.
Oh yeah.
We'll give it.
In a heartbeat.
And I'll say this again, and I'll bring it up on here because I know I texted it to you, but speaking of opinions, I cannot wait to hear more of Super Mega Crash Beyond. I listened to your guys' first episode that sort of put everything out there about what the show was going to be about, what direction you guys were going with it, and I really enjoyed it. I will say that right now.
Well, for anyone who is also excited, we did drop 2 episodes this past Monday, September 11th, which I was a little concerned about because of the date. And I was like, are people going to forget? And Lace was like, time has passed, And I was like, fair.
True.
But we dropped 2 episodes mainly because we wanted to show the concept in action of one episode that's about one thing and one episode's about another thing. So these are 2 drastically different topics that we touched on. And unfortunately, what was funny is in Discord, after we had dropped the initial episode kind of laying everything out, one of our listeners and a guest of the pod from last year, Eric Slater, he was getting all excited, and he was like, ooh, you guys should talk about aliens. He's like, I want in on that episode. And we were just like, well, buddy, let me tell you, because that was our very, very first episode. And I was like, damn, I hate that he got to miss out on that. So obviously he can, if there's any other topics, which I'm sure with him there are plenty, he can, we'd love to have him on to talk about whatever else. But yeah, it was funny because we're like, should we tell him that we were doing that? But it was a Lace idea. It wasn't mine, but it was a topic worth talking about because we got into the meat and potatoes of aliens. It's been on the news here lately, and it was just kind of a big deal for a moment where they were having those Senate hearings, and we just talked about, were they here? Were they, have they ever been here? Do we even believe that they exist? The whole shebang. And that's what we pretty much covered.
Man, that really makes me think, because I was so into being into it on the episode about Coke versus Pepsi, and I'm like, thinking now, there's so many other topics I could try to weasel my way into.
And that's what we were kind of laying out. It's like, if anybody wants to join us, because I kind of laid out the open invitation for anybody who is a podcaster who feels like their topic of discussion would be fun, that they would like to have. Anything. That's the beauty of it. Anything.
I know something that I think would be fun to talk about. And we could even, we talk about a lot of random stuff here, but I think it would work really well on Super Mega Crash Beyond. And that's, the other day I was watching some old commercials, and an old commercial come up, and the instant it came up, it was like I was taken back in time. It really gave me like this extremely nostalgic feeling. And I feel like that would be a great subject to talk about. Not so much just nostalgia in general, but bringing up something that makes you feel extremely nostalgic every time you see it or you hear it. Even a smell, you smell food and it takes you back to when you were a kid. I think that would be something kind of fun to talk about at some point. But
oh yeah, because there's a whole psychological aspect about that, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I can think of 2 or 3 things that are triggers that you just, I don't know, it's like you're transported mentally back to a point in time. And yeah, that would be a topic of discussion. That's a good one.
And I'll be honest, like, I was taken back not too long ago. The lead singer of Smash Mouth unfortunately passed away just a little while back. One of his songs that he used to sing, it was called Follow Me. Everybody knows him from All Star, probably. That's the song that everybody probably knows the most. But he sang a song called Follow Me as well. And every time that song comes on, as weird as it sounds, it makes me think about my uncle. Because my uncle loved that song. And we used to sing that like in the car. It was just like something that we did together. And it was weird because you would think it would be one of those things that would make me like sad since he passed away. But it actually makes me really happy because it instantly takes me back to those car rides that we would go on when we would go to the Goodwill and all the thrift stores, and we'd go and we'd find stuff, and he'd let me buy like all the cheap little toys that I wanted and everything. And I'd haggle with these little old women because he would teach me how to haggle, because he was on a fixed income. Yeah. And we would, make the most out of it. But it like instantly took me back to those summers that we would spend there. And then when I found out that the lead singer of Smash Mouth had passed away, his name is escaping me for some reason today. But when I found out he had passed away, I kind of went back and was listening to some of his songs and everything. And it took me back in other areas as well from growing up, because I listened to Smash Mouth a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I was really thinking about that, and I meant to tell you that the other day, but I was like, heck, we're on the podcast anyways. I'll bring it up while we're here.
It's funny. I have a very tumultuous relationship with Smash Mouth. There was a point in time I loathed that band, and it wasn't by any fault of their own. It was the fact that I was working at a job I hated, and they would blare the radio throughout the entire facility, and they played the top 40 radio station in Nashville. And of course, in the top 40 radio station, if you're unaware, they like to recycle songs every hour on the hour. And I had to hear this one song from Smash Mouth every hour on the hour, and I was like, fuck this song.
That's the whole reason I don't listen to the radio anymore, because they still do it. It's like every hour on the hour. And I want to say it's the reason I don't like Justin Bieber, but I think I just don't like Justin Bieber.
I mean, it could be both.
There's just something about him. And there's something shit talking. He's just not for me. Like, I go out of my way. If he's on in the car, if somebody has the radio on when I get in, I go out of my way to change it. So, same thing with Taylor Swift. Like, it's not that I hate Taylor Swift. It's just when you hear the same songs over and over. But I guess I can't say anything because I like classic rock. I like rock from the 60s, the 70s, and I'll listen to that on repeat sometimes in the car. So I guess I'm just as bad as everybody else. But music wasn't as lazy then, so...
Sure. I mean, there are times, I've got a whole playlist set up on my phone, and there are times, these are songs that I want to hear. But even then, if I've got it on shuffle and I hit a song, I'm just like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I have the option to skip it if I don't want to hear it. It's not that I don't like it anymore. It's just I'm not in the mood to hear it. I want something else.
I drive everybody crazy in the car because I'll have days where I'm just like, nope, 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 and I'll just keep skipping. I'm the same way with movies too. Like, I will watch new movies. I will, and enjoy them, but I have some go-tos. You know, it's been a minute since I've watched Nightmare on Elm Street, but I know what's going to happen the minute that I put that into the Blu-ray player and watch it. I'm going to be useless to everybody because I'm just going to watch it, and I'm going to watch it again and watch it again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have my handful of go-tos that I'll come back to. Fright Night, I'd say that's one of my horror go-tos. I know exactly what's going to happen, but you know what? I love it.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something honestly and hope it doesn't affect our friendship?
What's that?
The first time I watched Fright Night, I really didn't like it all that much. I was younger when I watched it, and there was just something about it that I didn't find it all that appealing. But I will say this much: the second time that I watched it, because I revisited it a few years later, the second time that I watched it, fucking loved it. So
it's perfectly fine.
That's why I tell people, give movies a chance.
The way I look at it is, if you watched it, but it sat with you enough that it makes you kind of want to come back to it, there's something there. If you watched it and was like, fuck that movie, I'm done, and you never want to see it again, then you know how you feel. But
you know, I honestly think what it was, I was too young to fully appreciate it the first time I watched it, and then when I came back to it, I really appreciated it. This is random. This has been driving me crazy though, and I don't know if we've talked about this. I feel like we did briefly before. I know how much you love Psycho. Mm-hmm. How did you enjoy Bates Motel? Did you watch Bates Motel, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I actually did, because I wasn't quite sure how they were going to approach the series, like, I guess the characters and how it was going to play out, because immediately you think, oh, okay, so this is a prequel to Psycho. That's how you perceive it. But then as the narrative progresses, you're just like, oh, wait a second. So are they taking some liberties here? Or are they making some adjustments? So are we going to wind up in the same spot? And then, of course, by the end, they completely went in a different direction and said, no, this is its own thing, which I think I appreciated more, because the moment you say, well, it's got to be a prequel and we've got to then come up to this one point in time, then it's very tricky, because then you're having to try to interweave certain details that don't necessarily work, versus just saying, no, we're doing our own narrative, our own take on it. And then at that point, you're like, oh, okay, so to hell with all that other stuff. Let me focus here. And I appreciate that a lot more, because then you're not bogged down with things that are going to happen. You can tell your narrative the way you want to. And they put a nice little twist on it, you know? And I kind of appreciated that. And, of course, Freddie Highmore, he's just... The kid, I mean, goddamn, what an actor. Yeah. If you've seen his career from child to now, I mean, just what he can do is phenomenal.
His descent into madness in that series is what I appreciate the most, I think, because he really plays it off as he's still developing this madness, this craziness that he has within him, and he's not as sinister in the beginning, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, the casting in that show was phenomenal, anyways. I would say,
Vera Farmiga, man, you can't beat that.
Which a lot of people don't realize it. People think that I can't think of the other one's name. She was in American Horror Story, and she's in The Nun.
Oh, Taissa Farmiga?
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think she's her daughter. It's actually her sister.
Yeah, because there's such an age gap. I mean, it's almost, 10, 20 years?
I guess they're a pretty big family, though, I guess. I guess there's 7, 8, or 9 of them or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, it's bound to happen.
Sure.
And
I think the very first time I kind of connected their names, I made that same assumption. I was like, holy shit, when I looked it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just with the age gap, you automatically just sort of assume that maybe it's a mother-daughter type thing. But
what happens when you assume?
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say.
And I guess the new Nun movies, I've been hearing mixed reviews, but I've heard a lot of people say that it's pretty good. I saw a clip of it where the nun's kind of just sitting there staring at someone, and she starts to smile, and when she reveals her chompers, she's got her demon teeth. And I guess it's pretty cool from what my understanding was. Speaking of movies and sequels, I I wanted to bring this up. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is getting a sequel. But
Yes, it is.
But I will say this. I appreciate what they tried to do with the first one. I do. I appreciate it. And they knew that it was a cheesy idea and everything else, but they went for it. Now, their budget was $100,000, so a lot of the movie's not very good. The audio cuts in and out. There's lighting problems, things like that. Things I think they could have focused on a little bit more. But I kind of think they were like, it's such a weird concept. People are going to love it no matter what. Like that's where my thinking is with what they were doing. That movie cost $100,000 to make, and apparently it made $5 million. So it made a decent amount of money based off of the budget. So we're getting a sequel. I've seen some images from the sequel. I don't know if you've seen any of them yet.
I have.
They've changed what Pooh looks like a little bit. I think it's actually a little more drastic than what people are saying.
It's an improvement,
yes,
if you ask me.
That is my big thing. Like, they have improved upon the look of the characters. I guess, from what my understanding is, this is going to go back in time a little bit, and we're going to see a young Christopher Robin, and then they're going to maybe age Pooh, and like it's going to do like a time jump thing, and we're going to kind of go like a little all over the place maybe. They introduced Al. I guess he's going to be in this new one, and they showed a picture. It made me think of Poultrygeist. He kind of has that vibe, which I'm okay with. I'm cool with that. They have a bigger budget this time. So, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I've seen it happen before, and maybe that's a topic for another episode of this show. There are some movies where the original is not the best, but you get into the sequel, and it's like they got their shit together.
Non-horror movie I can definitely point at, Star Trek. The first movie is boring.
Exactly.
But you get past it, they're all right.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. For some reason, I want this kind of movie concept to work. I want classic kids' stories to be horror movies, and I want it to work because I think you can make it work. So,
well, like you said, giving them the benefit of the doubt here, I know I shit on it in the past, because conceptually you're just like, what are you doing? You're just cash grabbing and whatnot. Clearly it worked. Now, if they were trying to secure this idea, and that's why they just said, here's $100,000, just put together something real quick, make the money back, and then we can secure a bigger idea, which clearly they have, because now they've got the budget to back it up. Maybe that was the way to, here's conception, here's the real idea. So now we're really going to put our best foot forward and be like, okay, now we can tell the story we really wanted to tell, other than, hey, Christopher Robin abandoned us and now we're going to just go on a killing spree. Conceptually, it's not a bad idea. It's just execution was lacking.
Yeah.
Here, maybe we'll get redemption. They could do an Evil Dead 2 style idea where you just kind of recap, but so it's like, well, it kind of happened, but you don't have to watch that movie, and now this is the real movie you need.
Yeah. And I think one of their smartest moves will be not to market this as Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Like, they need to make this be its own standalone thing. That way I don't want to say the stains of the original, but in a way, don't affect it. I think that would be the smarter way to go. And, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz thing. The original Wizard of Oz it's a classic now. A lot of people forget there's a sequel to it, but the sequel to it is
So good.
yeah, it's just
So good.
it's I don't know. I love when they take concepts for kids things and they turn them into horror things. An Alice in Wonderland horror movie would be interesting, I think.
Sure.
But
I feel like that was talked about at one point, and it just, I don't know whatever happened.
it may
to
have
that.
been. And honestly, I really want a Peter Pan. It doesn't even have to be a horror movie. I really want a Peter Pan film based off of the idea that Peter Pan kills the Lost Boys when they get too old, and Captain Hook and all of his pirates are lost boys that escaped. Because I would love to see a deep, heated argument between Captain Hook and Peter Pan where you find out that Captain Hook looked up to Peter Pan as a kid and couldn't believe that he tried to kill him. Like, something about that would be just so freaking cool. But here I am all over the place, and out of my randomness, you're wearing a Evil Dead shirt, aren't you? I thought so.
Made up to look very much like the Army of Darkness,
That is badass.
but it's Evil Dead 2.
That is badass. I had to just shout it out. I just saw Ash's head kind of poking poking up on the screen. I'm like, that's an Evil Dead shirt.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite T-shirts that I have, a good mashup of two ideas. I love mashups, especially when they're done right.
By the way, I know I sent you, and just for some of the listeners, I sent you some shirts and a hoodie from Walmart because they were getting Halloween stuff, and they actually got some pretty cool stuff this year. The one thing I didn't get to send you, the Friday the 13th thing I sent you was a hoodie. They have a shirt as well. So anybody who's wanting to get some hoodies and shirts, maybe a little bit cheaper, you can pick them up at Walmart. Hoodies are so hard to find horror related for some reason. I don't understand that, and it drives me crazy.
Which, speaking of which, if anybody who may not know, and I try to post these up as I get them, anytime Cavity Colors or Fright Rags is doing some awesome new drop or sale of any horror related stuff, I try to put them in our Facebook feed on our Facebook page so people can check it out if you want. I know that there was one this past week for Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, and then there was, what was the other one? I can't remember. But I mean, some really interesting designs. I know Trick or Treat was one that I posted up on. Again, trying to, if you want some of this stuff, because both of these sites, and I'm sure there are others, I know there's plenty more that I've eyeballed, but these are the two that I think have done an amazing job thus far. I mean, they have some awesome designs, and there's so many goodies. They last for a good while. It's not all horror, at least not from Cavity Colors, because I think they dabble in other things here and there. But I don't know. Check it out. I mean, it's good stuff. If we could have them sponsor the show, damn it, I would do it all day because my closet is full of their T-shirts, both of them.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, I would love to do like a partnership with them. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
I would, and that's a company too. If they decided like, hey, just tell us what size you wear. I don't know. I'm gonna feel like a jackass if they do this already. Like if they would send you like a mystery box every month. I think that would be kind of cool. Tell them what
they did. Well, they didn't do a mystery box, but this was they were doing a sale, and I think that they still have it up on the site on Fright Rags. It was this is an assumption on my part, so if it's not true, I think they're trying to just unload some shirts. So they were doing a mystery tee, and they were pretty much selling them at a discount. $10 for a t-shirt, $15 for like my preferred longer sleeve baseball tee, I guess. And they say that you could get whatever. So you may get a shirt that you have, which you understand the risks, but they're good t-shirts. They're not defects. They're not anything like that. I think they were just trying to get rid of their stock or some of their stock. And I thought, well, $15, hell, that's half or more than half of what I normally pay. So fuck it. Here's $15. Let me roll the dice. If I get something I've already got, so be it. I got a bonus.
Yeah.
And I got one that I didn't get, and I was excited. I was like, hell yeah, woo! So I lucked out, but no, it was kind of a neat little thing. I don't know how many more they have left. I think they're out. They were out of my size last I checked. So you may luck out. You may find something that's your size or not. I don't know. But that was kind of a nice little thing. Plus, they're also doing, and I think Cavity Colors may be doing it too, but Fright Rags has started a rewards program. So for however much money you've spent over the course of, I guess, your membership, because they kind of grandfathered my status in from a certain time period back. I think it was like earlier from last year or something like that. They just kind of accumulated everything and said, okay, here's where you are. Yeah. And then go from there. So I'm not in the highest tier, but I'm pretty damn close. So I was like, all right.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I think it's free shipping up to a certain amount. And I think if I can get to the other tier, it's free shipping all the way around. I was like, that's what I want. Because I feel like that's where a lot of my cost comes up is the shipping. Yeah. And, I mean, I understand there's not much I can do about it, or probably not much they can do about it. But if I can get free shipping out of it, shit. Yeah.
Right? I get that.
But anyway, yeah, it's go check those guys out. They're awesome. And they're getting free publicity from us right now.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've bought anything from them just because I haven't had the extra cash. But every so often, I know I'll see on our Facebook page, or you'll send me. You send me a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, so I see it and I'm just like, oh god. That's my problem though. I see one and I'm like, I could buy them all.
I usually try to decide early on, like if they'll put out a new drop, or sometimes they'll even, kind of give you a heads up, of what's coming for the next month. So I'll kind of glance at it and be like, do I want something out of this collection? Of course I do, but I mean, how bad do I really want it? And I think a lot of the ones that I like, for example, going back to the sleepaway camp stuff that they did, there were 2 designs, and I'm almost positive they both came from Fright Rags. And the original sleepaway camp drop that they did, they had a t-shirt that was designed to look like the poster for, I think it was Meatballs, the comedy from the 80s with Bill Murray, for those who might be uninitiated. I have to remember that. Not everybody is as old as we are. But it was very much designed with that same style in mind. And then you insert the characters from Sleepaway Camp. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I like that. And they even had like another design to go along with it, with Angela and her wide-eyed face. And I was looking at them and saying, yeah, that would be a good one. But I passed on it. I was like, well, damn it. I'll pass. And which, still stings. I'm sure I could look to see if they still have it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But then the Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 drop came. And I couldn't pass it up. I had to find a way to squeeze out the money, which I found another way, but I'll explain that some other time. But they had, it's Angela from Sleepaway Camp 2, kind of that same aesthetic, because of the bag with the Freddy glove and the hockey mask and everything, where you kind of see that from that old VHS cover.
Yeah.
But it's the poster for Ernest Goes to Camp.
Oh, God.
But with Angela and all the characters from that, and I was like, I can't pass that up. Man. That's just too awesome. So that kind of stuff right there, like I said, the mashups, kind of like this. It's just, I mean, come on.
I mean, it's not something that you would think that you would see anywhere. So I think that's what makes it so appealing,
Yeah.
Not to veer off. I know we're kind of going down the rabbit hole here, but my big thing is horror shoes. I know that sounds weird, but like some companies make like Vans last year or the year before had horror-themed shoes and accessories. They had hoodies and all kinds of stuff. Well, they had a really cool Friday the 13th hoodie. They had shoes. They didn't have I don't think they had a hoodie for Nightmare on Elm Street, but they had Vans. And I wear Converse when I remember to put them on. I like Converse and I like Vans. I will wear them. And they had these really cool looking Nightmare on Elm Street Vans. And I just kept putting it off. I'm like, it's a lot of money. And I'm one of those people where it's like, if I can buy 2 pairs, I'll buy 2 pairs so that I have a pair that I can put up and keep nice, and then have a pair to wear and whatever, Yeah. But they were like $50 or something like that, I think. And I'm like, I don't want to drop that much right now. And then my size sold out. I was like, oh, that sucks. And then I know, and I cannot think of the name of the website, and I know you sent it to me, that hat company that you sent me the link to, they had a really cool Nightmare on Elm Street hat, and I was finally going to order it, and it was gone. So my thing is, if you want something, and you're like, I'll put it off another week, don't put it off another week.
I almost missed the Pumpkinhead shirt from Fright Rags for that very reason, because there were 2 drops coming out. I guess the week that came out, there was another shirt that I was eyeballing, and again, where they do the previews of coming attractions, if you will, I thought, okay, well, let me see. And I noticed one, and then I noticed the other. I was like, shit. I said, I want to buy this one earlier in the week and then this one at the end of the week, so I'll just wait and I'll get them both when the other one drops. Sure enough, when I get to Friday and I go to order it, the size of that Pumpkinhead shirt was out, and I was like, that is bullshit. I was so angry. And luckily, it came back around where it was available again. I was like, score! So I nabbed it up without even questioning it. It was just like, son of a bitch, I don't want to miss this again. Because I love that shirt and I love that design.
Yeah.
And again, it seems like FOMO on the highest level, where they get you with limited amounts of, prints. But I don't know. That's just like you said. Are you willing to go that extra step, that extra mile to get what you want, or are you just going to be like,
And sometimes when they're like, oh, it's a limited print, it's like, we're sold out. Oh, wait, we found some more. So it's always a gamble, like every time.
Sure.
Just enough to drive you crazy. Do you have any random horror news? I know we had a topic, but we're kind of all over the place today.
No, I've got a few little news bits here. In fact, I'm doing just a quick look here on one thing because I want to make sure that I'm covering some things. So there was, interestingly enough, if you ask me, 2 trailers that came out along. Well, you would almost be convinced that this was all from the same people, where we were talking about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Mm-hmm. There were 2 other trailers that came out this week from the same production company, and I don't think I'd ever heard of them before, but looking at their filmography, I still have no fucking clue who they are. But they have created some, I don't want to just be mean, but some less than favorable reviewed horror films. And I don't think that these are going to be any more or less favorable. But conceptually, they're trying to tap into the Winnie the Pooh thing. First was Mary Had a Little Lamb. And the concept kind of like from what I gleaned from the trailer. Again, it's been a while since I didn't watch it recently. It was a few days ago and I've forgotten it since then. So you got some people and then they meet Mary and Mary seems a little unhinged. And then next thing you know, some dude, it looks like a sheep. It's not a bad looking get up. I'll give it that. At least the sheep mask looks pretty cool, I guess, for what it is. Goes on a killing spree. So, that's Mary's little lamb. I think it would have been 10 times funnier had they gotten a little person. So I know if that's offensive, I don't mean it, but think about it. Come on. Warwick Davis in a lamb mask hacking. Come on.
They could have also done like a Malignant thing. She could have had a little lamb that come out of her head.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Either way, I mean, you missed the mark here because that is not a little lamb. That is a giant ass lumberjack in a lamb costume.
Mary had a giant lamb.
Yeah. So anyway, there was that. Dark Abyss is the name of the production company. The other movies that they have apparently put out is Fire NATO, Demonic Christmas Tree, and the Area 51 Incident. So there you go. The other trailer they dropped was for 3 Blind Mice. Now, they look like mole people to me. That's just my take. People go out into the I can't remember. Again, that's how much of an impression these trailers left on me. It was just like, what? People get caught up with the mole people, but apparently they're mice, but they look like moles. I swear to God, they look like moles. They do not look like rats or mice or whatever the hell. So there we go. More horror movies based off of things that don't need movies.
Do yourself a favor. Look up the movie The Mole Man of Belmont Avenue, I think is what it's called. Okay. I watched it because Robert Englund was in it, but it's a comedy movie about a giant mole man that lives underneath these people's apartment complex, and they start investigating it when all the people's pets start come up missing because it eats the people's pets. It's a comedy movie, and it's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's pretty damn funny. But you can compare these 3 blind mice to the mole man in that movie.
Speaking of other trailers, I was excited to hear about this. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it briefly in the past, but we finally have an official Thanksgiving horror movie called Thanksgiving. I mean, what else would you call it?
I didn't realize that they had released a trailer yet, and I was checking like my news feed, and I saw it pop up saying that there was a trailer, and it was like the trailer's set to come out tomorrow, and I'm like, well, this was from so many hours ago. So I instantly went to YouTube and I watched it, and I'm actually really excited for it. It looks really good, and I remember us talking about it because we talked about how there's not really that many Thanksgiving horror films. I remember us talking about that, and I gotta say from the trailer, I do appreciate one thing. They made this whole movie based off of a mock trailer that they did in the Grindhouse movie when they did that. And in that trailer that they did all those years back in that movie, there's a scene where there's a girl jumping on a trampoline and she does the splits, and he stabs his knife up through the trampoline. They didn't show him stab the knife up through the trampoline, but they did have a scene where there's a cheerleader jumping on a trampoline, and she goes up and she does the splits. And as soon as I saw that, I know that sounds weird, but as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this makes me happy because they're, sort of staying true to that source material from when Grindhouse came out. But it actually looks like it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Eli Roth behind it, so he's not directing it, is he? I think he's just a producer, or is he directing it?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I guess we could Google such a thing, but, we're trying to talk about movies and shit. We ain't got time to be Googling.
And the gentleman that's talking in the trailer, I can't think of the actor's name, but everything I've ever seen him in, like, you just know his voice. And he's in a show, I think it's called like Suits or something like that. He's a lawyer in it, and he's just a dickhead in it, but he's really funny. And
so Eli Roth is directing.
Is directing, okay.
Yeah, so even better. Continue.
But I was just saying that the guy that's talking about family and Thanksgiving and everything in it, who they show at the end, the actor, I think they chose wisely with him because I've seen him act, and he can go from funny to really disturbing in just a snap. So I don't know if he's gonna, end up being like a helper of the killer or whatever, but I don't know. I'm hoping this movie's good because, as weird as it sounds, I really want a good Thanksgiving horror film.
What's funny is that I was looking through that. I found, I guess, what would be considered the Grindhouse trailer, and looking at some of this art they have with it, and one of the posters is that scene that you described in great detail, except it's art, but it's the cheerleader, and it's like she's holding her shirt like she's about to undo her top, and there's a knife right below her split legs, and it's just like, that's gonna fucking hurt, man. So that, I guarantee you, that's gonna be a scene in the movie that is gonna hit a lot of people
not
the wrong way.
Not to sound like a jerk, but there's so many nut shots in movies. Give the women their fair share, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, I think the new Thanksgiving looks promising, so.
Yeah, I'm intrigued enough to check it out. Another trailer, of course, we already got a trailer for this here recently, and I think they were just, since they had to push it ahead, because the Swifties are coming, Exorcist Believer got its full trailer this week, and I'm still down. I mean, nothing changed. I'm still looking at it going, yeah, I'm going to check this out. Of course, it did add a little wrinkle to the story, at least to what we're kind of aware of. And in the trailer, it said something where you've got two girls who are possessed, and it was like one's going to have to die for the other one to survive. And it's like, oh, shit. As soon as Katrina heard that, she's like, I wasn't already going to watch this. Now I'm never going to watch this because they're pretty much saying one of these kids is going to die, or at least that would be your assumption.
Yeah.
So it's messed up, but I'm intrigued by it. And again, this is one of those movies that I feel like I don't like seeing children die, but this is a situation that you're just kind of like, it serves the story. Maybe.
Well, and just thinking about that, just to sort of give an opinion here, I guess. The original Exorcist was, for its time, extreme. It did things that made people uncomfortable. I mean, we've all heard the stories. People were running up and down the aisleway of the theater. People were fainting and walking out and running and all kinds of stuff. In a way, if they're presenting that concept into this new one, to me that feels like they're trying to get that same feeling put out for people. You need to make people uncomfortable while they're watching this movie. You need to do things that make them feel uneasy. So I mean, I can get behind that. I'm with you. There's no point in just senselessly killing kids in movies, but if there's a bigger reason for it, then so be it, I guess.
Yeah, if it serves the story, I'm okay with it in that regard. Okay. So real quick things that, I guess I just wanted to touch on, just in case anyone was aware. Saw 1 and 2 are coming back to theaters for a double feature, I guess ahead of Saw X. Something tells me that the reason they're doing that is there's going to be elements of those movies that are going to play into this one, since it's a prequel. I don't know to what degree, but it's very interesting that they would choose the first two to be like, yeah, we're going to bring these back to theaters.
Do you have the runtime on the new Saw?
No.
Because it would be cool if it wasn't like an insane runtime. It'd be cool if they did like a triple feature and you could watch the prequel,
Yeah.
then watch Saw 1 and 2 back to back. That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, they did full watch, what do you call them, like the big epic watch parties for all the Marvel movies before Endgame came out.
Yeah, that's true.
And you tell me that wasn't an all day or two affair, or all weekend for that matter. So it wouldn't surprise me if they would do something like that, or some theater would throw it out there and be like, you know what, let's do it. And so there's that. If you want to check those out, I mean, I've got them. I don't need to go to the theater to see it. Secondly, and I feel like I remember hearing about this coming out, but I guess it slipped my mind, and I don't really remember where it's going to be streaming. Again, I guess I can Google it. But Pet Sematary Bloodlines, new movie coming out. It's going to be streaming from what I hear, and it got its R rating. Like, that's a big surprise. Like, one of those no shit. Of course it's going to get an R rating. Again, I'm not sure where it's streaming, and I guess nothing's telling me that either. So it's coming out.
What did you think of
later this year?
The remake that they did?
It's Pet Sematary. I'm not trying to knock it at all, but I feel like it's one of those film story franchises, what have you. I guess franchise would be accurate at this point. It's all right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't find myself always coming back to it. I'll watch the original film every now and again, but it's just like...
What did you think of the concept? I mean, I kind of thought it was interesting that they changed up which one of the children died.
Yeah, now I will kind of give them props for that, for kind of making a twist on that, because obviously that was everyone's first thought, is like, oh shit, we're going to have to watch Gabe die again, but I can see why they made that adjustment. And it works in regard to this version of the story. But again, did it change how I felt? I mean, it's all right. It's not a bad movie by any means. It's just, it's where I'm at.
Yeah,
with it. Paramount Plus, by the way, is where this is.
And this is a new movie.
Yes, it's a prequel.
Okay.
Like, for whatever reason, we need more prequels, but there we are. Okay, so 2 things real quick. We got a actual runtime, since you were talking about runtimes, for Five Nights at Freddy's. It's not going to be 3 hours. I think the runtime was about 1 hour and 50 minutes, so it's still going to be a bit of a bigger movie, but not 3 hours, thank Christ. And then we actually have a director for the Twilight of the Dead project, which is the final George Romero zombie film, I guess, that was being planned. Brad Anderson, who people might know from... He directed Session 9, which is a movie that I think gets slept on.
Yeah.
He also did The Machinist with Christian Bale. I recommend checking that movie out alone just to see the body horror that fucking Christian Bale did to himself, because god damn, that was commitment. You know what I'm saying? But he's done some other stuff. Those are just a few things that I know that he did direct. He's done some TV work and some other interesting stuff. So I think that's a solid choice for director. I'd like to see what he could do with it. And we'll have to wait and see, I guess, whenever that comes out. And finally, I'm excited about this. I think I'd be a little bit more excited if I didn't own some of these already. But Paramount, since we were just talking about them, are releasing what seems to be the first in a series of volumes of horror films. They're calling it Paramount Scares Volume 1, 4K versions of the films. Now, in this selection, you're getting Rosemary's Baby, Pet Sematary, Crawl, Smile, and here's where it gets interesting, a mystery title.
Okay.
Now, with the mystery title, you'd be like, oh, what kind of garbage are they going to put in here? But from what I read, they said this is a fan favorite film that is going to be released for the very first time on 4K. So you would have to look through what Paramount movie in horror has never been released on 4K, but is a fan favorite that would fit within this collection. And again, I would get this under, if I didn't have 1 or 2 of these already, on 4K.
Yeah.
But maybe if because Rosemary's Baby, Pet Sematary, I mean, those are Again, I wouldn't mind having a copy of Pet Sematary as much as I was like, eh.
Yeah.
But the fifth title, I'm very intrigued by, because the moment it becomes visible in somebody's hand on the internet, it's going to go out. It's going to be, and I'm waiting for it. I'm checking Reddit threads and everything like that just to see, because I'm curious.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're making this out to be a big deal. We're not going to tell you what it is, so you're just going to pre-order and maybe get a good movie out of it. Because it could be something you hate, but they're confident that they're going to surprise the shit out of everybody with this mystery title. So,
And honestly, out of the titles that you said are already on it,
it's a solid set.
There's some good ones there. I'll be honest, I'm not, like, I thought Smile was okay. A lot of people made it a really big deal. Did you get the chance to watch Smile?
Yeah, I got to watch it.
I enjoyed it.
It's a good concept.
Yeah, it wasn't like the greatest thing that I'd ever seen, but I enjoyed it. And then I found out a little bit later that the girl that dies in the beginning, that's at the hospital, she's actually there's a fan film that started before Smile, and it's what actually inspired the movie Smile, and she actually plays the main girl in the fan film, so they brought her over to be in the actual movie. So that made me actually appreciate it a little bit more, because it gives you a little bit more view of whatever this Smile entity is. So I thought that was kind of cool, but Crawl alone, you had me at Crawl, because Crawl's just so great.
And that's one of those, again, that I feel like so many people have slept on. It's a movie that should not be as good as it is. When you hear just the basic premise, you expect the worst of the worst, but by God, they knocked out a champ right there, man. I love that movie.
My favorite scene is still the basement scene and the bathroom scene. So
it's one of the best creature feature films in a long time. Absolutely. Last thing I want to bring up real quick, just for anybody who may have missed the announcements, all the last drive-in goodness that's coming for the rest of the year up till, we'll just say up until Halloween, because I'm sure there'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas shows. But today, September 15th, if you're listening on the day this comes out, there will be a Walking Dead Daryl Dixon episode where they'll be kind of doing his usual shtick like he did with the Dead City premiere.
Okay.
Where he'll kind of do his interruptions and trivia and whatnot for the show. So if you want to check that out, that's going to be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, if that's your thing, on AMC, AMC Plus, and Shudder. And then, of course, on demand the following week. Then there's going to be an AMC original special, which will be him hosting a premiere of Halloween on AMC. So if you actually want to see, like, which I feel like he's done already, or at least he did on like a Halloween special. Maybe this is like well, no, they're saying it's a live special. I don't know. Apparently he's hosting yet another showing of Halloween on AMC. So that'll be on October 10th, 9 p.m. Or 10 p.m., excuse me, Eastern. I've got to remember the Eastern part. This is not my usual time. And then finally, on October 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern, Joe Bob's Halloween special, which will be their usual Halloween shtick. I don't know what they're showing for that one, so that's a mystery.
I love how busy they keep Joe Bob. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I just hope they don't wear him out. That's all.
Yeah, I know we've talked to John before, and he's said what all of us have neglected to think about, because it's a sad truth, but Joe Bob won't be able to do it forever. But boy, does he still do it. I think
that's a passion.
He's
man.
What, 71 now, I think? Something
like
right in there. But I mean, he's still got it. So that's all that matters.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, I got to get caught up on the drive-in stuff. Like I just never seem to find the time, and it drives me crazy because I do enjoy watching it. I enjoy hearing him talk about things. Man.
Well, that's all the news I got.
Well, I think we can still do our topic today. I know for anybody out there listening, we have a little bit of a time frame today, but I think we should be able to talk about this. We don't have to get into a lot of detail about the movies, because we've talked about some of the movies before, and we can always revisit the studios individually. But two studios that I thought we would talk about today is A24 and Spectrevision. I would consider them both still indie studios to a degree.
Sure.
Come to find out, I guess there are some A24 projects that are still being done even with the strikes, because they are they signed some papers saying that they're not going to comply with certain things and they're going to comply with other things, I guess. And I guess Paul Rudd, if I remember right, Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega are going to be in a film for A24, if I remember correctly. I think it's Paul Rudd, if I remember right. But
no, it sounds right.
anyways, both great studios. But I thought we would maybe nitpick a little bit because I love both studios. But I guess the question at hand is, which studio do you prefer the horror films of a little bit more than the other? And that's not saying that we don't like one less than the other. It just sometimes certain studios release horror films you prefer. It's all about taste. So I thought we could name a few movies from each studio.
Sure.
I've got A24 pulled up, and just, you know, I know you've seen Lamb. I know you really enjoyed Lamb. I've seen Lamb, but not in the sense that I've sat down and watched the movie. But again, it's one of those things. Freaking TikTok puts up all the snippets of the movie, and I see this kid with a lamb's head, and I go, "What the hell is that?" And then I start scrolling through, and then I find out that this was a whole damn movie. Definitely an interesting movie, I will say that.
Yeah.
We've got, I guess, Tusk was released through A24.
That's right.
Another one of those movies that's just fantastic. Green Room, which I love. I love Patrick Stewart as a villain. He makes a really good villain.
It's one of those situations where you're seeing an actor go against type. Yeah. Because you know he can command a room as a good guy, as a captain, but to see him do it as a villain,
yeah,
love it.
The goosebumps just. The Witch, which is fantastic,
and it's. I feel like that's one of those movies. I don't want to say it's slept on. I feel like it's a love it or hate it type of movie, because when I was first introduced to it, it was a friend of mine who, you know, he's one of those that likes to just go out and buy shit. And me, I'm not that, you know, I'll buy what I want, and I've got to research it a little bit if I want it to be on my shelf. Yeah. But he'll just go out, he'll look at a movie like, "You heard anything about this?" And I was like, I don't know, you know. And he's like, "All right, well, I'm going to pick it up and I'll see." I'm like, "All right, well, you do you." He bought The Witch, and he was just like, "I don't know about this movie, man. Check it out and let me know what you think." I watched it, and one of his biggest criticisms was he couldn't understand what they were saying because they were speaking this old English dialect. I appreciated the hell out of that because they were trying to be true to the time, and I'm sure that was difficult. But I've listened to enough British TV shows and talk that I understood every word. I did not have that problem. I could understand where some could, but I was not one of them. So that to me felt like, I don't even say it's a language barrier, but I feel like that's what it comes down to for a lot of people. It's like, I don't know what's going on half the time because I can't understand them. It's like, all right, well, that's your problem.
I think the pacing for some people was a little bit of an issue because it is a slow burn. I will say that.
Sure.
But I appreciated that because you think of the time period they were in. There's not really a lot of fast-paced things going on. So it really makes you feel like you're there. And I appreciated the hell out of that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'll agree with you. I think it is slept on quite a bit. Another movie of theirs is called A Ghost Story. Don't know if you've ever seen anything about that. It's about a person that dies and they're just kind of lingering. I love what they do too in it. It's literally a sheet with eye holes cut in it. And you don't see the person underneath. They have it all, you know, clear underneath. But it's just a really weird film. Most of A24's films are just they're odd. A few that I wanted to name just real quick, and I'll name them back to back, and then I'm gonna name what I think is one of their best films. But to name a few, there's a movie called The Monster, which is really good. You've got X, Pearl, Bodies, Midsummer, and one of my favorite films of theirs, which all of those are great. And I know there's films that I'm not naming because there's a lot of horror films. I would just tell anybody listening just to Google it and kind of look. But one of my favorites is, still to this day, Hereditary. That is a tough film to watch. And just everything that happens in that movie is just brutal. And the mother in it, which I'm looking up now because I can't remember names, is it Toni Collette?
Yeah.
That woman deserved an Oscar for that movie.
But you'll never get it being in a horror movie.
Yeah, but
which is bullshit.
her performance just at the dinner table when she goes off on her son, that gave me chills because, and I'm sure you can say this, as a parent, if one of your children was responsible for the death of another of your children, you don't want to hate your kids and you don't want to be mad at your kids. But if your kid's responsible for the death of your other kid, that's going to be a hard thing to deal with. And I think she really personified that in this film.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like in the conflict in yourself, because these are people that you love unconditionally, and now you feel like they're responsible for you losing one of these people that you love unconditionally. So then you're just kind of caught at a crossroads. And yeah, I mean, the emotional roller coaster that woman went on, and whatever award she did win, which I can't imagine she didn't win something. Whatever award she did win, she earned the fuck out of. And again, like you said, deserved an Oscar. And they honestly have to start breaking that shit free. In fact, Jamie Lee Curtis, I feel like she should have had an opportunity. And I know she kind of shouted out a few things when she got hers. But that right there, she should have been like, call out this person, that person, this person, that person. All these people who've been overlooked. We even said, speaking of another A24 production, Pearl, Mia Goth, the fucking scene in that movie, in Pearl, where she's just kind of confessing everything. Spoiler if you haven't seen that movie. It's a one-shot scene that goes on for a few minutes, and you just see her unraveling. Because 1 minute she's just kind of timid, and she just starts, as she's saying everything and just confessing, you can just see her, like the weight's being lifted off of her. Because she's finally getting it off her chest and finally saying all these things that she's feeling. And why was she, just to even be considered, damn it. Same with Toni Collette. Why not even a nomination? You don't want to give her the win, fine. But at least say that they were in the same league as these other people that you claim did the best performances, which I guarantee you were nowhere near as great. But that's just me.
I get it. It just drives me insane. Horror films are just, it's just the same concept of stuntmen. There deserves to be a stuntman category for the Oscars because they do a hell of a lot more work than people think sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We could fall down that rabbit hole too. Now, there's not as many horror films from the other studio, Spectrevision, but they have also done the same sort of thing with the genre. They've kind of gone out a little bit into some other concepts, I would say. To name a few movies, and one of these always makes me laugh when I see it. You've got Toad Road, LFO, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, The Boy, Open Windows, The Greasy Strangler.
Now, I'm going to stop you on that one. Have you seen that movie?
I have not seen all of it, so I've gotten into
Greasy Strangler is a weird, wild ass movie, and for anybody who's never seen it, I don't really know how to explain it to the best of my ability, but it's just a buddy of mine who I kind of recommended it to, likened it to the Pink Flamingo, which I think is a damn, what's his name? Someone's gonna kill me because I can't think. John Waters, I think, kind of had that same aesthetic in some regards as to way it kind of plays out, which I can see, but I don't know. It's such an odd, weird little movie that you're just like, what the fuck is going on half the time, but you can't stop watching.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's one of those weird ass movies, but I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just so fucking weird, but I recommend it. I recommend people checking it out just because of that weirdness.
Yeah. What else have I got here? Mandy, which it's been a minute since I've seen that. It's got Nick Cage in it. Daniel Isn't Real. There's another movie I'm going to name after this one that I really enjoy, but one of the first films that I watched from Spectrevision, it came out way after other movies they released, and then I went back and visited some of their other movies. Caller Out of Space. Talk about a trippy movie. I don't know if you've gotten the chance to see it or not, but long story short, a meteor falls on these people's property, and this color like permeates from it, and it's some kind of radiation. I will say this much about this movie. There is one scene in particular. A mother and son get fused together, and it is pure nightmare fuel. The dad, which is Nick Cage, locks them in the attic. And there's a scene later in the movie where they become this creature, where the mother is sort of the main half and the son's sticking out of her back, but this thing looks like animalistic. I don't know if you get the chance to like Google search it, you'll have to take a look at it because it is trippy.
Okay.
And it's really well done. But to me, and I know this sounds awful, to me that's one of the most like memorable things about the movie. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but that scene alone is the thing that has stuck with me the most out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a very basic concept. I don't know. And it's Nick Cage over the top as always. So, and there are other like creatures that sort of mutate and everything. Like the cat, like I think their cat mutates, and I can't think which one of them is. One of the Cheech and Chong guys is as well. He's an old hippie that lives outside.
Well, old hippie, I would immediately think it's
It was the one that was on that 70s show.
Chong. Yeah, Tommy Chong. Hey man, it's all right.
Yeah, he's legit an old hippie that lives out like on the property somewhere, and I think he gets mutated too into something, if I remember correctly.
So him being an old hippie, he's just playing himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I'm hearing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, man.
Now, one of my most favorite movies by them, people might shit on me for this because it's a horror comedy, Cooties.
I love Cooties.
I love Cooties.
Cooties was a treat. Like I wasn't sure how to like how if it was going to be as good as it seemed like it could be, but I think Elijah Wood was a draw for me immediately. And then of course you've got, I mean, look at the cast itself. You're talking about Jack McBrayer. Christ's sake, he's one of those that every time he pops up somewhere, I just light up because I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna have a fun turn because he's just so jovial. Everything he does, you know, he's so country and he's just so nice. And it's just like, how is he gonna navigate this situation with his niceness?
Right. My favorite part in that movie is when the parents come to pick the kids up and all the kids are getting in the car, and there is a scene with a baby in the car seat. They don't really show it, but one of the kids attacks their younger sibling, which is just, you know, nuts. But that's always made me laugh. That scene's always been funny. And then when they are escaping the kids out in the street, they find an unlocked door and they are in a freaking kids like Chuck E. Cheese type place. I mean, the only other movie that I really love, it's not by, I don't think it's by either one of these studios, but it's on Hulu. It's called Little Monsters. Don't be confused with the 80s movie or 80s or 90s movie. Yeah, 80s, yeah. 80s. There's another movie called Little Monsters, and it's about a teacher who takes her kids on a field trip while a zombie apocalypse breaks out. And it is a super funny movie. I know you're not a fan of, I can't think of his name. He does Olaf's voice.
Josh
Thank
Gad.
you.
Yeah.
I know you're not a fan of him, but he plays like a children's entertainer in it who's a dickhead, and he gets killed. And his death is hilarious. They have a puppet, and another guy controls the puppet, and the puppet's like friends with Josh Gad's, television personality. And the puppet kind of looks like Kermit the Frog a little bit. Well, he gets separated from the rest of the group. He basically tells them to go F themselves, and he gets separated from them, and he goes and he hides in the van. Well, the frog pokes its head out, and it's all zombified. And I think it talks to him or it says something, and it bites his face off, if I remember right. It's a weird thing, but it's super funny. And when you see it, you're just like, what the hell is happening here? And the teacher makes me laugh too, because she's like, this girl deserves to win Teacher of the Year every year. Like, that's just how good of a teacher she is. I highly recommend it. It gave me Cooties vibes, because I think I watched Cooties before I watched it, if I remember right. And after I watched Cooties is one of those movies, after you watch it, you want to find other movies like it.
Yeah.
And that's where I watched Little Monsters, and it's funny.
But I know I've eyeballed it because I think it's on Hulu, and I was just, Cooties was the first movie that made me think of. I was like, so it's Cooties, but maybe not. I don't know. And I do like the lead. I can never remember her name, but I think she's gorgeous. That's just my opinion. So I kind of follow her wherever she's at.
I get it.
And it's bad I can't even remember her name, but shit. I know her name, goddammit. I just can't. Anyway, yeah, I saw that she's in it and she's the lead, and I was like, all right, yeah, cool. But again, I see Josh Gad standing beside her, and I'm like,
He's not as...
I don't know what it is. I just don't think he's funny.
He's not as prominent in it as you would think he is. So I guess that would be a good thing. I know if there's two movies I would tell you to watch, it's Little Monsters, and it's on Hulu, and I know you have a love-hate thing for Nick Cage, but I will always suggest to watch Mom and Dad, especially because of who plays his wife in it. And I know this sounds awful. Her name's escaping me. She's Hellboy's girlfriend in the Ron Perlman Hellboy movies.
See, I remember her fucking name, Selma Blair. God damn it. See, all right, now I've got to find the other woman's name because...
Oh, man.
I'm sitting here being like, oh, I know her fucking name, but all this other woman that I'm so hot and bothered for, I can't remember her fucking name. Jesus. I mean, Selma Blair, I'm not saying she's attractive, I guess. Lupita Nyong'o.
There it is.
Jesus.
And she is very pretty, right? She is very pretty. And
anyway,
you're not the first guy to watch movies just because there's a pretty face. I do it all the time.
I mean, I can't help it. You know, I mean, I've sat through some garbage for some pretty faces.
Right. I've sat through some garbage for Robert Englund. I'm not saying he's a pretty face, or am I? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
It's okay.
We're getting there.
It's okay. You can
we love everybody. But, Little Monsters, definitely put it on your watch list, and I promise you will love watching Josh Gad get killed.
Well, if there's some positive, I guess that's it.
And Mom and Dad, because it is Nick Cage being the right amount of Nick Cage in that movie, I feel. It's not too overbearing. It gives you Renfield vibes to a degree. Okay. Like, I mean, obviously he's not Dracula in it, but he's not too over the top, but he is over the top when he needs to be. So, but anyway.
Which is fine.
Anyway, out of these two studios, obviously A24 has released more horror films than Spectrevision. I feel like Spectrevision's a little more refined. I feel like they, and I'm not saying this because I think they make better movies or anything like that. I just feel like they take a little bit more time to sort of sift through everything. And I think A24 has more resources.
It does seem that way because now, obviously, I mean, this is not what it's, Elijah Wood is pretty much the man, or was the man behind Spectrevision.
Still is.
Because I think it was born from a studio that he kind of founded at one point called The Woodshed, and then it became Spectrevision. So there are other people involved. So he's more, I don't feel like he's CEO, but he's within the top brass, you know. So it's still technically his production company that you would eyeball.
Which kudos to him. You know, he was in one of the biggest franchises of all time. And he could have gone off and done all kinds of movies, but he actually really loves indie films. He loves horror. He loves that whole genre. And so he created a production company to get things out there. And you can submit things to Spectrevision. I didn't know if you knew that. It's really easy to submit things to Spectrevision. So anyways, go ahead.
Well, what I find interesting, I mean, doing this comparison, because I guess I hadn't really noticed, but it's as you said, there is a smaller amount of releases that Spectrevision has done, which is surprising to me.
Yeah.
I mean, by comparison, A24 blew up at some point, because I remember, I mean, obviously there were some movies, non-horror movie related, like Spring Breakers. I remember that being, when that movie came out, everybody was like, oh, Spring Breakers, that's the, you know, there's this actor and this actress and this actress, and they're doing scandalous stuff because it was a bunch of Disney teenage girls or whatever from those days. And now look at them, they're being all seductive and dirty. Ugh. And I didn't know what A24 was at the time, you know, but there it is. That was a movie or a studio, probably one of their earliest releases, and it got a lot of attention. I'd say the one movie that I did watch would have been Tusk, where I probably first saw A24, you know, and saw it for, you know, up front and personal. And where it really started to kind of keep my attention, like really noticing them, maybe The Witch, because when that movie came out, I was like, okay, I feel like I've seen that before. And then, of course, Green Room came out not that long after. And I'd say 2016 is about the time where I really started to keep, like it was a little light was going off saying that's that studio that did that thing, that other thing that I saw.
Yeah.
So it was just one after the other. Swiss Army Man was another one that came out that same year, directed by the Daniels, who did the Everything Everywhere All at Once. So they've been growing over time, which is funny too, because both studios, if you think about it, really started around the same time. So, I mean, if we don't count the woodshed, if you will, for Spectrevision.
Yeah.
If you start from the point it became Spectrevision, they really have existed the same amount of time, but A24's had a lot more behind it as far as releases. Maybe they've just got more financial backing that they can allow a lot of the stuff to work with. And of course, they've got, deals with Amazon and DirecTV and all these other things. So, I mean, they're especially Showtime, because, I mean, they pretty much have the what do you call it? Every time an A24 movie comes out now, I know where to look.
Yeah.
Showtime.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to see The Whale, where I got to see X and Pearl. And so every time one comes out, that's where I'm like, all right, when are you coming out?
Right. So I looked up Spectrevision real quick, and from 2010 to 2013, it was known as the Woodshed. Since then, and this is just on Wikipedia, I am showing like 16 movies that they've released. A24, I'm going to have to probably take a look at, but I can tell you it's way more than that.
Yeah,
but to me,
absolutely.
I mean, like I said, when I wasn't really thinking about how many movies these companies had released when I was like, maybe we should talk about this today. But that says a lot right there. Spectrevision hasn't released nearly as many movies as A24 has. But in my mind, I'm putting them on the same pedestal. I think that speaks volumes on its own.
Sure. I mean, if you take a look at a lot of the stuff that Spectrevision has released, I would feel like, to be fair, they are a lot more ambitious and unique than some of the A24 stuff. And I honestly, I mean, when I see A24 attached, I mean, to me, they are a sign of great filmmaking.
Yeah.
As there used to be a time where someone's name used to be that very thing. You could say, oh, that's a movie by Steven Spielberg. I know it's going to be great. And we may have talked about that here before, that very thing. His name doesn't hold the same weight that it used to.
Yeah.
He used to be the golden standard. This is the filmmaker everybody wanted to be like. Now, not so much.
Yeah.
And that's not to detract from anything he's done. Just pointing out that star has diminished and, it's not shining as bright.
Right.
Same with studios themselves. I mean, I'm sure that there was a point in time, because if you've taken a look at all these big documentaries, Warner Brothers, Universal, 20th Century Fox, when they could be like, hey, look at us, when this was our big heyday. This is when we used to be awesome. And there may have been a time when you could look at a studio and be like, oh, I cannot wait until their next movie comes out because it's going to be great. I can't say that about most studios, but A24, it catches my attention. When I see that they are attached, it catches my attention.
Yeah.
Spectrevision has done the same. I know who's behind it, which is Elijah Wood. I can't speak to everybody else involved, but he's enough of a name that I know he loves the material enough that I'm like, okay, show me what you got.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued.
I feel like Spectrevision is more, how do I put it? You're getting horror films with A24. Like, you're getting, I don't want to say basic horror films, but they're following a formula to a degree. Spectrevision goes a little bit further out into left field sometimes. And they give you conceptual art pieces that are horror themed. Like that's how I feel about them. It's something that I think it's just different enough to where they don't do as many projects because they're really focusing on these just kind of out there concepts. Like Caller Out of Space is very out there.
Yeah.
But it's memorable and you want to see more of it. So even though they haven't released nearly as much as A24, you're drawn to them because you know that when you put something on that's from Spectrevision, it's going to be a wild ride, almost like a fever dream. So
yeah.
And I know the whole thing today was going to be like, which one do you prefer? If you want a lot of content, then you would have to go with A24 because they have a lot more content. But if you want something that's just going to be like a fever dream, something wild that you're really going to sit there and be like, what is going on? But in a good way, then you could lean towards Spectrevision. Both are great studios. I would love to see them, as weird as it sounds, I would love to see them partner up for something. That would be cool.
Oh, hell yeah. What's interesting about it, too, and this is no disrespect to any of these films, but if you were to look at a lot of the films that come out from Spectrevision, I feel like Cooties would be about as close to a mainstream version of a film that comes out of that studio. You know what I mean?
I could see that.
All the others really have more of an indie feel, where Cooties kind of, it's a little right outside that. It's still an indie production, but I guess something about the production value of it feels like it's right there at the edge of a studio picture, you know what I mean? But not quite. But everything, again, that's not to knock any of these movies. I'm not saying that in any way to it's nothing, it's not a disparaging remark. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying from a certain perspective, that's how it feels.
You know what?
And
you know what I would say about these studios that shows me that I am a fan of both of them? I don't know how true this is. It has been mentioned, I think, by Elijah Wood before. And I know I've heard it somewhere with A24. But both of these studios, I guess, have shown interest in doing a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And to tell you the truth, I would be fine with either one of these studios taking over that mantle. I think it would be interesting.
yeah.
Hell, there we go. Spectrevision presents Nightmare on Elm Street with Elijah Wood as Freddy Krueger. The Freddy we didn't know we needed.
He's got the build for it. I'll give him that. Whether or not he could, I mean, think about it. That would be some inspired casting.
Now he was...
Because he's not who you would think.
No. Now he was in... They did a remake of... Was it Maniac? Where he scalps the women?
Yes, yeah.
He was in that. And I it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember it, and it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was a solid flick. I mean, as far as remakes go, I mean, that could have easily been one of those. And I honestly thought this was done under Spectrevision, but it was not.
Yeah.
So, but he brought something to that role, which, no offense to the original actor, but there's a little bit more believability that Elijah Wood could kind of rope in some beautiful woman and, you know, kind of, again, no offense to the guy. I've seen Ron Jeremy and the shit he can pull. This guy, same deal, I guess. In the 80s, it was different. Who knows? But again, both are solid movies. In fact, I would recommend, if you've never seen the original Maniac, you watch that shit alone just for Tom Savini's gore effects, man. Because there's was it the gunshot? Like a shotgun through a windshield? Yeah. God damn. Bam! It's a great effect, though. Fucking awesome. Yep. And anyway, but yeah, Elijah Wood, I mean, he owns the role, man. He plays it out great. I thought it was a great remake as far as they go. I don't think it gets noticed all that well because it's, you know, no one thinks about it.
And, you know, I think the fact that he is with the executive part of Spectrevision helps Spectrevision in the sense that I feel like executives in Hollywood, executives and producers, I feel like they should be people who have been actors, because it's like any other job. You're going to tell somebody how to do their job when you've never done their job. You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. But if you look at it from that standpoint, like Elijah Wood has been an actor forever. And now he you know, produces these films. He helps with these films. He understands that an actor might do something that might be a little different. He understands that the writers need to be heard. Like, he understands all these things. And that shows in the work that they do. It's in everything that they do. And I appreciate that a lot. And I feel like A24 does the same thing. I feel like, you know, I can't speak for if the executives over there have ever acted in films, because I'd have to look them up. But it seems to me like they do listen to a lot of the things that their actors say. They listen to their writers. They take chances. You know, while the rest of these big studios are like, we're going to remake this franchise for the 14th time, you've got these studios going, we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to, you know, make some different things happen. And it pays off. You know, I didn't even, like, as bad as it sounds this morning, I'll be honest to everybody listening, this was just kind of a quick idea this morning.
Sure.
I didn't realize that Spectrevision didn't have quite as many films as A24, but that really shows you how much of an impact they have had in the film industry. It's mind-boggling. I mean, I don't want to have to choose between the two.
I really don't think you can, but as you said, it's a testament to Spectrevision for not having that much, but being enough of a name that you're just like, oh yeah. They would be on the same equal footing as a studio like A24, and I really hope, because as we're seeing A24 expand, they are really getting a wider, like, people are starting to know that name. People are starting to recognize that is a studio that has quality behind it. They allow their filmmakers to make the movies they want to make. I hope that it doesn't get out of control to the point where it becomes yet another studio.
Yeah.
Like I'll just say all the big ones, because we could go down so many rabbit holes. So they do some good things and then they don't.
Yeah.
So that's all. I'll leave it at that. But I want to see A24 being that studio that any filmmaker who has a desire to tell a story and tell it without interference can do within a modest budget, because I think that's the other thing that they have to kind of keep in mind too. You can't be making, they're not going to make a Marvel movie, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. I want good stories told by great filmmakers and storytellers who get to tell the story they want to tell.
Not to bring this up too exclusively here, but I was talking to the missus yesterday, and I was telling her about us having somebody say something nice about the show, and we got to talking about you and I working on the show, and I talked about the little short film that we've talked about doing, and how it would be nice to take that to a film festival, and that we've we're still talking about it. It's just making it happen is going to be something that we have to figure out. And I was telling her, I said, it would be wonderful if we get it made and we go to a film festival and some studio likes it. I said, even if they don't like it, if we get good feedback, but no studios pick it up, obviously there are other ways to get full-length films made, but it would be awesome if a studio picked it up. And when I was talking to her about that, she was like, do studios do that? I said, yeah. I said, there's 2 studios I can think of. I said, actually 3, in fact, I can think of that would probably show interest. If any studios were going to show interest and it would be something that would be done, I said the studios I can think of are A24, Spectrevision, and Troma. Those are the 3. And I said that to her because if you look at their films, a lot of their films are films that have come from even smaller, like, home studios. Yeah. They've communicated with the people that created it and gone, hey, we want to make this into a full-length movie. And I don't know to what degree they have the people who created the concept work with them, but I would assume that they have them be a big part of it. I don't think they would just buy it flat out and go a different direction. Like, I really don't feel that. Smile's a perfect example, which we talked about earlier. The girl that is in the beginning of Smile is the same girl that's in the whole short film that is on YouTube. So obviously they brought that over as the cool little, like, Easter egg. But to me, that says, we love the original concept that this person created. We want to bring this person on, because instead of just buying an idea like a lot of big studios do, why not bring on someone new to create more content for you? Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to make more money that way, and everybody's going to get their name out there and put good content out there, create great films. It's a win-win.
I think so, but greed drives all things.
True, and I don't get that feeling from A24 and from Spectrevision. I don't even get that feeling from Troma. I mean, we've had a lot of association with Troma, it seems like.
Yeah, no,
and they're wonderful.
I agree.
So
yeah,
but yeah, I just the only thing I would say is if you prefer a lot of content to watch, then I guess you would prefer A24. If you want some more out there fever dream type ideas that are fever dreams in a good way, then Spectrevision would be more your speed. But either way, I would check them both out.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a clear winner in this. I think you just have to trust your gut check them out. And like I said, we've given a lot of great examples for things to check out. I'll still go back as far as the Spectrevision goes. The Greasy Strangler is just one of those. I'm trying to remember what that. Damn it, I can't remember the name of it or what. There was an ongoing saying or phrase they would throw out in the movie. I can't remember. It almost just go check it out.
When you talk about it, it almost reminds me of there was a movie you had me watch. I think we talked about it where the junkie guy gets taken over by an alien.
Oh, Fried Bear.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it's got like a feel like that kind of.
See, that would have been another one. If either one of these companies had been behind, I would have been like, yeah, I would believe it.
But
and also in the Greasy Strangler, you get to see a very old man walking around bare ass naked with his peen hanging out. Oh. It's a fake peen, but a peen nonetheless. Oh. So you're welcome. Anyway, I guess we'll go. Anyway,
I don't have anything else if you don't, so we can end on the old peen thing.
Yeah. Ramblers, let us know how you feel about old peen or on X or Ramblings. Do you like it? Do you want to watch this old flabby swan? It looks like what do you call it? A clock, a grandfather clock, and it's just swinging.
Oh God, yeah.
I wish I could. Oh yeah, it could be those two.
The little pendulums.
It's a game of gnip down there. It's just
can't sneak up on anybody these days.
Nope. I'm just gonna hear it, click it, and sorry. Anyway, yeah. If you want to talk about that over on X, you can do that at Horror Ramblings. If you want to show us pictures, don't do it on X. If you've got one of these swinging pendulum gnip sacks, but hey, do it on send us an email. Why not? At horrorramblings@gmail.com. Christ, don't do that.
Please don't give us old peen pictures. Please no.
No, please don't. If you wanted, some people will. I guarantee you, because we've opened the door. It's going to happen. I'm sorry for saying it, but please don't. If you want to join us over on Facebook or Discord, join us on our Ramblers Room or our Facebook group. We're posting up, like I said, T-shirts and memorabilia, trivia, news stories. If I'd have remembered to post up the trailer for Thanksgiving, damn it. I wish I could get early access where I could have all this stuff ready to go sometimes. You can find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. I actually remembered, I posted up something about the last week's episode this week. I remembered. If you're feeling generous and want to support the show financially, head on over to patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions. Leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app. Tell your friends to do that as well. If you happen to be using Spotify, see if we posted up any questions or polls. Let us know what you think. And if you just need a central hub for all things, pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links for all these things are down in the show notes below.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there and no peen pics.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.